Well, hi, it's Garnet, and it's Sunday, August 16, 2026, here in Thailand. It's kind of early afternoon, and you know, I'm getting used to this format, or getting used to it. It's a little unusual for me. So, as I recently mentioned in the personal video portal. I'd noticed some reluctance and what that could be from. In any case, this portal is the going deeper where I look at things more technically. And I said, I think I think a lot about things. And here it is Sunday. I'm trying to not come to the office 7 days a week, trying to have a more balanced life. Part of why I'm here is because I love what I do. And today I thought, okay, Sunday, I'm going to take it easy. I had a lazy morning, had a wonderful talk with a dear friend and colleague over the years, Ron Teagarden, Dragon Herbs. If you know who he is, an icon in the health movement with a deep past, right, starting in University of Michigan. I don't know, in Michigan, I don't know what university, I forget. The ecological movement, long history. And we had a great talk, about an hour and a half. And then I thought, oh, okay, I'm going to watch a podcast, which I began to do. And I thought, I'm going to come in and I'm going to jump into this video. So, uncharacteristically, here I am in a Sunday t-shirt, to be truthful. Didn't take a shower, didn't shave. I thought, no, I'm going to go against the whole thing. And yet, here I am. I think I think if you're watching this that I work with the Neurovisor device, the light and sound. I'm the inventor and the creator of the content. And what I work with, I label brain engagement to contrast it, or at least give it a relationship to brain entrainment. And what's at the foundation of this thing? Well, it is my claim, as is brain entrainment, working with brain waves. And I've had a few starts on a paper. I like to write papers. You can see them in the website. The paper that I've been trying to write, which is the fuel for what I'll be talking about, is Are Brainwaves Real? You say, well, of course they're real. Well, in any question, you always have to examine the question itself. First of all, when I say, are brain waves real? Number one, well, what do you mean brain wave? That's a lot more tricky than you might assume. And then, of course, the big sticky, real. It's maybe just a nice hook. So I thought, and I think that my effort here is to share with you a learning process and not me sitting here unshaven with my comfy t-shirt professing to be some authority, which of course is just about everywhere now through social media and the internet. So as much as we could find a starting point, I think the most obvious one is to start with Hans Berger. And actually, 100 years ago, we're in 2026, and the dynamism of his more famed research was 1924 to 1929 when he finally published. We could look at it just by claim or look at it with more curiosity, my three C's: curious, confused, and concerned. I'll probably try to do a mix of both. And the concept of the topic, Are Brainwaves Real, will undoubtedly be discussed over a number of videos. I'm not going to try to do one big fat one at this time. One is to respect for time, and the other, it's a pretty deep topic, and I want my best effort to reflect into the topic for the sake of our learning. Okay, Hans Berger. The background, nice story. I'll do a loose telling. He was in a wartime experience, I think in the late 1800s as a young man. He had an experience, I'll skip what it was, but he was quite convinced, perhaps, that it was an example of telepathic communication from his sister. And when he was out of war and employed in the university in Germany, again, this is my storytelling, pretty close, that he entered into the research of the brain and brain activity because he wanted to, I don't know if it was prove, but at least investigate telepathic communication. And as my recall, he would spend evenings in I think a basement lab, unaware to the general academic population that he was working with, studying this thing, trying to find out about the possibility of telepathic communication. And in the midst of this, he encountered what we now call brainwaves. So it's a fascinating kind of context. And I think then as now, the need to put it in a philosophical context, the model of reality, and the model of reality that we struggle with, I don't know if struggle, I struggle sometimes, is the model of reality that science in general, and I don't know what to call the other one. It's probably not correct to call it spiritual, but the non-reductionistic, holistic view, because our science is famously reductionistic, materialistic, mechanistic, and that's a pretty new framework considered the apparent history of our social philosophy. So what he did, actually, he bumped into it. I say bumped. I mean, he was pursuing brainwaves as early as 1924, but kept it, I guess, secret or relatively secret, because one, he kept on exploring it. The other is the probability of criticism. He didn't publish until 1929, so he waited 5 years to kind of come out of some kind of scientific closet. And he experimented on his son and one other patient. I think the person had like a malformed skull, I forget. But anyway, he put this early technology onto the head, especially at the back of the head. And to his, I guess, surprise, he found out that there was electrical activity coming out from the skull that could be detected by this early technology. And the early technology was basically, if you've seen kind of in movies, like an lie detector test, this little pen that would go up and down and scribble on a piece of paper that was moving. That's what he had. And as he went on a little later, another second early voltage machine, I think, created at the bottom of the paper a perfectly, kind of like if you imagine the teeth of a saw, but it's just up and down, a perfect 10 hertz representation from the machine, not from the brain. So it showed the amplitude, like, the mountain peak, exactly the same, and the peak valley, mountain valley, exactly the same. So he could compare it to what was being mapped with his wiggly jiggly pen from the brain. And from the visual cortex, he didn't, well, he might have known it was this. Yes, probably did. It's known now and was discovered clearly then that when you close your eyes and you don't get involved with task thinking or mathematics, that part of the brain settles into a certain range of electrical activity. I say it's electrical activity. Nobody, even today, it's a big controversy as to whether that electrical activity is kind of like foam on the beer, like it's not really meaningful, it just happens, or is it related somehow with cause and effect, chicken or egg? But anyway, you can detect it. Now, the thing to understand is even looking at images from that scroll with the squiggly lines. Again, what I'll call the perfect sawtooth at the bottom does not at all look like the wiggly squigglies. When the eyes were closed, it would be mountains with high peaks and low peaks and wider valleys, shorter valleys. So there was a rough correspondence to the sawtooth below. But it kind of averaged out as being the famous 10 hertz. But it wasn't 10 hertz at all. It was 10 hertz here and there, and it was a range from famously around 8 hertz, meaning 8 times per second, to around 12 hertz per second. And the amplitude or the power was highly variable. And as soon as the person opened their eyes, or if they started to mentally try to do a mathematics problem, then the waves changed radically into what has been now called beta, meaning higher and faster, shorter wavelengths, faster wavelengths. So, right from this point, by the way, they didn't, I mean, he didn't know. At first, I guess he wanted to call them Berger waves. I don't know. It's his last name. Why not? And then eventually, alpha, it just happens to be the first letter in the Greek alphabet. So it got called that. And hey, guess what? The next one is beta. So this is factual and actual. It happened. The question that we have to look at throughout all of this is, are these real by some definition? Yes, they're real by some definition, but is there anything in the translation that we miss when we look at them? Because why? Well, right now, it might seem to you that you're looking at me. You're not. You're looking at a representation of me. And the assumption is the way that I look if you're sitting across from me with your naked eyes and you're looking at the video screen, that it's the same. That might seem like, duh, stupid. Of course it's the same, but we trust the transformation process here. And that's the thing that we will explore as we go further into Are Brainwaves Real? Because generally speaking, certainly in casual internet, authoritative internet, even scientifically, which is an interesting model in itself, which I respect, the tendency is to assume that what Berger mapped in his graphic representation was actually more like the perfect sawtooth I'm calling it sawtooth. I mean, saws are actually at an angle, but it's like little pure pyramids. That kind of regularity, that's what's happening in the brain. And that is what's used in brain entrainment. It's a concept that a pure a digitally, electronically, mechanically created wave, I'll call it that, is what's happening in the brain. And it doesn't seem to be, is the fact. So where did we take this leap from ziggy-zaggy? And we'll talk a lot more because that's the easy one to pick up. Technology has gone far past, far past him. Yet in principle and concept, we have to look more closely. What is the concept? What is it that when we try to measure, we try to detect, interpret, extract, and represent, is that outcome, is that signal really what's happening in the brain or not? Um, spoiler alert, I don't think so. Okay. All right. I need a shave. It's Sunday morning here in Thailand. And okay, at least we're in the swimming pool. Let's see. Thank you.